So it seems I'm not the only one that found the article on vibe coding not providing all the benefits that folks maybe think it provides. Or, sorry, coding assistance. That's a broader space. It seems CNBC also got clued into this. So let's give this a listen and see what they have to say.
Meantime, tech giants like Meta and Google now say they're planning to have AI do as much as half of all of their coding. But some new research suggests the productivity gains from that might not be as impressive as early reports suggest. Deirdre Bosa has more in Tech Check. Deirdre?
So, Kelly, this study has touched off a nerve. We're not saying here that AI isn't leading to be productive. We're just saying that AI tools, yes, they're here and they're being used. The payoff may be more uneven than the hype suggests. So let's get into it. Researchers at Meter, this is an AI research nonprofit, ran a real-world trial. It was small, though, and found that seasoned engineers were actually 19% slower when using AI tools like Cursor. Instead of speeding these engineers up, the AI often gave them suggestions that looked helpful. But
let's just pause here, take a quick look at this graph. Without AI, so it looks like this is our productivity. And you can see the humans. I think these are expert humans. They are sort of outperforming the AI. Then with the AI, they're here. This kind of makes sense to me in some capacity. This is sort of what happened to me with the thumbnail generator, is once you start getting into the vibe, I think a curious thing happens, which is you kind of start turning off your brain and you just keep waiting for it to fix the thing that you're asking for. So let me give you an example. So see this red X and this broken thumbnail? Please fix the red X and the broken thumbnail in the main UI. Drag and drop an image here. Image Dropbox. There should be no red X or broken thumbnail when an image is not present. Okay. So I'm going to ask it to fix this. And what we're probably going to see is it's not going to fix it. And the reason why I say this is I've asked it to fix this multiple times, and it's just not fixing it. So you can see it's trying to be cordial, and maybe this is part of the reason why it's saying you're right to be frustrated. I'm not frustrated. You're just not solving it. And so I'm asking you to do it multiple times because you keep not fixing it. And I think that it understands if you ask the same thing multiple times that it's just going to clue in that you're probably frustrated with this. And I think that most people probably would, but more importantly is we would just kind of like it fixed. So anyway, what happens is even if you're a senior coder, you're using the system to essentially do the work for you, and you kind of offloaded it to your assistant. Like, look, you're doing the driving here. I'm overseeing. And so just kind of do the minor thing that I just asked for. This is not that hard, right? Please fix the red X, right? And the broken thumbnail. Look at this. Look at how long this. I'm on the Gemini Pro here. This is supposedly, this costs money and stuff. Like, well, what is it doing? I can tell you sort of what it's doing is it's thinking about this, and then it's going to go through and it's going to regenerate the entire 1,200 lines of code or whatever, even though it doesn't need to. It only needs to work on this small piece, but it's going to go through and it's probably going to be regenerating, like all of this CSS stuff, all of this, right? Because it doesn't actually understand. It doesn't semantically understand the code. So it has to follow this parroting exercise, which is to work on this. Okay, so look, I don't know how long this took, but I asked it to do this, and then it's like, okay, the problem was with blah, 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 right? I've updated the code, and I've fixed it. Does it look fixed to you guys? Okay, so here we go. It's still not fixed. Try again. Now, we can sit and iterate here indefinitely. And this is what I think is kind of happening with these senior devs. If you're a senior dev, you're going to get to this point without the AI, and then when you have issues, you're just going to fix it yourself. You're going to go into the code, and you keep in mind, you fully understand the code because you wrote it at this point. So you know it forwards and backwards. And therefore, when there are subtle issues, you can fix them pretty quickly, and you're going to jump up here. When you don't know the code forward and backwards, you just understand the general system, like what it's supposed to do, but not how it's implemented. You don't know where the problem is. You just know that it has a problem. So what's happened is we've created a dependency on the system that actually doesn't know how to think. It doesn't, like, these systems are largely stochastic parrots. And so this is why they regenerate essentially the whole block of code each time, is that it needs the sequence of things to then get to the end of the story. It can't simply just patch the small section of code, right? Again, like I was saying, it's going to regenerate this whole thing every time, even though, as I think all of us can tell, it doesn't need to. The only thing it needs to do, the preview is not active now because it's generating the code. All it needs to do is just fix this so when there's no image there, it just doesn't show the red X. The red X is there. I'll show you in a second. The red X is there to essentially make it so you can get rid of an image that's loaded. It doesn't. So you have the image, and then you click the red X, and it gets rid of the image. When there's no image, there's nothing to get rid of, right? And so it's probably just a parameter to a function, but I don't know which function because it's buried inside of all this code. And the whole point of this was to save me time so it could create this. Oh, look at this. Okay, so it fixed it. That's great. That's actually super awesome. And this actually further exemplifies my point. This is probably the 10th time I've asked it to fix this. And what's interesting is that because these are stochastic systems, they sometimes will get it fixed eventually, but you don't know which iteration. So ideally, you would say what the problem is and it would fix it on the first try. Sometimes it does it this way. Many of the times it does it in it does it in maybe like half a dozen tries, and it's almost like you have to do some debugging to look into it, as we've seen previously, and help it see what the problem is so then it can fix it. Now, in this case, we didn't do that. It just got creative on its own, which is fantastic. But I guess maybe think about it like this. If we were an expert coder, I probably could have looked at the code and figured out where this is not working in less time than it took for it to think about this, rewrite all the code, and fail on the first try. And on top of that, it took a second try. Now, these are just the 2 tries that you've seen. In fiddling with this has happened at least, I would say, closer to 10 times, but probably at least 6 times. There's many things that it's been failing on. So it's hard for me to keep track. Anyway, this is part of what I think is happening here, is that the human mind is kind of turning off and we're going into copilot mode. We're going into like navigator mode. And so we're just like clicking the button saying, but just fix it. Just, yeah, it doesn't work still, fix it. Doesn't work still, fix it. And eventually it figures it out, or the expert coder comes in and fixes it themselves. Whereas if they weren't using the AI, they might have been more efficient in this space. Okay, let's continue. Sorry for the monologue.
But actually required time-consuming corrections. Now, this undercuts a core Wall Street narrative that AI will simply just supercharge white-collar efficiency and unlock a wave of productivity gains across enterprise. Instead, the study suggests that the return on AI coding may be more uneven, less immediate than investors have priced in. Now, there is some nuance here. Prior studies have shown a more straightforward benefit to junior engineers from AI tools, particularly for simpler, well-scoped tasks. That was more straightforward. Now, this latest study suggests that while it can help that group level up, it may actually increase reliance on senior talent because someone still needs to debug, refine, ship the final product. And that helps to explain the current talent wars.
No. Sorry, not the talent war part. That last piece threw me for a curveball. Sorry. The part about over-reliance on senior devs, yes, because for the junior devs that are doing this, they don't understand the code. And so then when there is a problem, they didn't write it, right? The AI did. And so then if it has an issue, the senior dev is like, well, go fix it. And then the AI can't fix it, and then they can't fix it. So there's more work for the senior dev to go through all the code and understand what's going on and then fix the issue. That part I think is absolutely correct. And therefore, it goes back to what I was saying about how AI coding tools, especially code gen ones, I think are going to create more jobs for experienced developers because the developers are going to have to go in and fix all of the mess. They're going to have to fix all of these issues that the junior developers and the AI coding assistants cannot fix, which is going to create an increased demand for senior developers, not a reduced demand. Therefore, it's going to create more jobs for senior developers because there's more code now that's being generated that has potentially some potential. And therefore, people that are vibing their way to a product that have investment money of millions of dollars are going to say, well, I don't know how to code this, but we can hire someone that does. So I anticipate it'll be like this. You'll get people with ideas that'll go ahead and vibe code their way to something like the GTT thumbnail generator, and they'll get to this, right? And this looks pretty. And they will present this to their investors, and their investors will be like, whoa, you put this UI together and the system, and you can like press buttons and stuff actually works. Like, this is amazing, Goju. Like, you're a super coder. And I'd be like, yeah, I've got all this stuff. Little do they know, I didn't code any of this. I just talked to the AI long enough about an idea, and so it has something built. What they don't know behind the scenes is that this over here is mostly this is not good code. It's highly unlikely that this code here could be used for a production system unless it was massively refactored. This is just completely unacceptable. Minimally, the style-related things, the stuff that's related principally for data, all of this stuff at the top of the file, this should be in its own CSS or separate data file. On top of that, like these functions, as we looked at, they have like a bunch of nesting. These variables, like what's going on with this? This is just a joke. It's going to take a lot of time for someone to fix this. And that person is likely going to be a senior developer because it's going to require someone that is seasoned in JavaScript, seasoned in CSS, generally seasoned in UI and React and things of that nature, and then they can come in and refactor this, thus more reliance on senior developers. However, the AI talent war, this is a completely separate thing. I think that, well, let's hear what she has to say.
Where Zuckerberg is throwing $100 million offers at top AI engineers, they're more essential than ever. And that's why you see more coding being done.
False. That is fake news. Altman's not doing that. We saw this in a prior episode. Zuckerberg's not doing that. Altman is just creating imaginary stories to game his own employees. Let's listen to this again.
Talent wars, where Zuckerberg, someone still needs to debug, refine, ship the final product. And that helps to explain the current talent wars, where Zuckerberg is throwing $100 million offers at top AI engineers. They're more essential than ever.
Is Mark Zuckerberg offering this should be $1 million signing bonuses to OpenAI ML engineers? OpenAI CEO Sam Altman claimed Meta was offering signing bonuses as high as $100 million in some of his employees, blah, blah, blah. And so this is the story, but here. Furthermore, an OpenAI researcher who recently joined Meta, Lucas, dismissed the $100 million signing bonus claim as fake news. Needless to say, that the $100 million signing bonus thing, I think, is fake news. But let's go back to this and listen some more.
And that's why you see more coding being done across the tech giants themselves, yet the price for talent.
Oh, Google's supposedly at 50% of the... Okay, this is a prediction, it seems. And it seems like somehow... I thought Google was just at 30% a couple weeks ago, and now they're at 50%. I don't know how you jump to 50% like that in 2 weeks, but boy, these are some interesting stories. I mean, these make for some... This is like a really rich fairy tale that we're living right now with some of this. This is, yeah, it's fun.
Is skyrocketing because, yes, AI is writing the code, but that's just reshaping the developer stack, not necessarily replacing it, Kelly. So the dynamics here are fluid, they're changing, and there's other data out there too that shows that maybe the hype isn't all there yet. Doesn't mean that it will come through once the algorithm learns more, especially from these senior engineers, but it's not all there.
I heard this from my neighbor too, when he was messing around with some of this coding. This means new grads, fear not, you're saved, you will have jobs. There's still going to be plenty left to do.
What I hear is you have to use AI. That is absolutely essential. AI is not going to take your job, but someone who can use AI is going to take your job. And I mean, this is an interesting side of it. And it's not going to be totally straightforward. The middle is getting...
I've heard that you can use it, but you have to check it. And sometimes people are so exhausted from checking it all the time. They're like, I'd rather just write it myself and be able to trust it.
Well, that was the interesting thing as part of the study. The seasoned engineers that took part in this, they said at the end of their task, they said, wow, that was so efficient, that sped us up. And the study found that it actually didn't. It took them longer. So they thought it was speeding them up, but they spent so much time actually debugging and going through it to making sure it was correct.
Interesting.
Now, there is sort of an interesting side to this that I want to just mention. Again, to be fair. So maybe I'm coming down pretty hard on the vibing systems. And clearly, we got to see a live example of it was able to correct one of the things that I was complaining about. So as I've mentioned before many times, whoa, look at this. Man, like this just comes up. Keep in mind now, I've got it set up to where it generates its own meta prompt at the beginning. And it can be anything. And so it's coming up with some wacky stuff. Like, I love stochastic AI for this kind of thing. Maybe I'm going to use this as a background for this video just like, look at how cool that is. I mean, I'm very impressed with the sort of non-human bias that the AIs will have when you're leveraging their stochasticity in a way that is helpful, like this, right? This is a super useful way to leverage stochasticity because you have a core idea, but then you want to solve it multiple ways, right? It's the same notion here, is you have a problem, just like this, right? You have a problem, and now stochastic AI, so this could be all deterministic AI here. Stochastic AI solved this problem now in multiple ways. Stochastic AI solved this problem now in multiple ways. Solved it one way, solved it a second way, solved it a third way. I would put those consts on the other side of that auto, but that's just me. And solved it a last way. Whoa, look at this. Oh, mentor. Bad mentor. Mentor. We're going to have a conversation, mentor. You generally do pretty good on your code solutions. This one I can probably get behind. This one I can, again, stochastic AI, I'm telling you. This one, there's a little bit of an embedded ternary nonsense going on here I don't totally love. This one, it can be done cleaner, but at least it's simpler than this mutating operation with 2 embedded ternaries in it. I mean, basically, this is 3 levels of if expressions, just so you're all aware. Here's the first if. The second if is here. This question mark will lead to this. That's the second if. The third if is here. This question mark leading to this. There's 3 embedded ifs, and they're nested inside of each other in this. That's why maybe it's this first one. Yeah. It seems as though in this first one, it's essentially doing the 3 levels of nesting, but it's doing it in a way that makes it feel like it's not nested. I think that's mostly right. Anyway, the takeaway here, stochastic AI gives you one solution, pretty cool. Second solution, pretty cool. Third solution, also cool. Fourth solution, not so cool. Don't always get 4 home runs. And as we look at this, there might be something that's not like a home run in these. Regardless, stochastic AI, when used in a way that doesn't require but can improve in its usefulness when it's stochastic, I think is extremely helpful. That's a great way to use this. So I want to listen to this last piece just once more when they're talking about, I do agree with that, using the AI part and not thinking about the AI is going to replace you. I've never thought that this was the case. I think people, again, my view, software works in a virtual space. That virtual space is unlimited. That means the amount of software that we can create will never end. It's different than the physical world, where if we're trying to build houses on the entire surface of the planet, eventually, if we continue this path, we will cover the entire planet with houses or with things, and we will have no more space, no more land to build things. Software doesn't work in the physical world. It's the virtual world. There is no limited space. It's infinite. Therefore, if you draw that same corollary and then think that people will have jobs in a space that's virtual, will they ever run out of work because other people want to work in that space? I don't think so. Why? Because it's an infinite space. Like, again, if you think about the assembly line and the manufacturing floor for things, if you have robots come in to then do the work that the humans are doing, you no longer need the humans because it's limited physical space. Is that once the robots are in there, they're doing their work, and humans are likely going to get hurt because they're vying for the same physical space. If humans could be in that space without interfering with the robots, they likely could still contribute, but that's not the way the physical world works. But in the virtual world, it does work this way, that we can work with the AIs to create software. They can do their thing, and then we can do our thing, and we're working together to just be faster. It's not like you're just going to say, okay, humans, you're not adding anything. I think humans are going to continue to add important things no matter what the development state is for AI in software, because of our creative ingenuity and many other things. Like, we understand the intentionality of what it is we're trying to build, and we have like built-in ethics, and we kind of understand the world, which is something they don't necessarily understand. All right, let's listen to this and one last time.
That took part in this, they said at the end of their task, they said, wow, that was so efficient, that sped us up. And the study found that it actually didn't. It took them longer. So they thought it was speeding them up, but they spent so much time actually.
Oh, yeah. So here's one take that I want to share, because I'm really big, I think, as many of you know, on being fair. And this is, I think, an important thing, is if people are happier, and I mean happy in this case. I'm not talking about myself with meaningfulness. I'm talking about if people are doing something and they feel happy, what we see is people often have the ability to do that task for prolonged periods of time. So, for example, why is it that if you sit down with one of your really good friends and you sit down and you start talking, and next thing you know, 5 hours have passed? It's probably because you enjoy it and they enjoy it. And so you're having a discussion and time is flying by. Same thing with doing anything that you maybe really enjoy, is time just kind of slips away. In the context of coding, if the AI system you're using is making you feel some kind of joy or happiness, I think one of the byproducts could be that you could, and may sound like a mercenary take. I don't mean for it to be a mercenary take. I mean for it to be a practical take. I'm trying to be a pragmatist here. I think that if the AIs make your life happier when you're writing code, you can code longer. And so if they are maybe slowing you down, which I think is true, and I think they're going to continue to slow us down for quite some time as they evolve. And like, whether or not language models are the right medium for these systems, I think that they're not foundationally. And it's nice to see that I'm not like the single minority view on this anymore. Not that I like need a whole bunch of people to support my crazy ideas, but it was a lonely space there for a while. I felt like I was the only person that wasn't maybe fully losing my mind saying that, hey, the world shouldn't be run on stochastic AIs. That's no way to drive autonomous vehicles or fly planes or run hospitals or power grids. But now we seem to be getting there. But on the other side of this, there is this view that if you can kind of ride a little bit of this out, where the stuff that is mundane, the AI can handle, and so you don't have to deal with that nonsense. Microwaves, I think, are a great example of this. One of the big benefits of microwaves over ovens is that there's just like no preheat time. There's no preheat time. So once you want to eat something, you want to have popcorn, you want to heat up your pizza or something like that, you just pop it in the microwave, you hit 30 seconds and you hit start and it's going. Whereas if you try to do this in an oven, you'd have to heat up the oven, preheat it, and there'd be like all this time. And so it's a convenience thing. Even if the food may not taste as good if it came from the oven. All right, so similarly, with vibe coding or these types of AI assistants, it could be that when we use them for minutia, or very simple things that we kind of don't care. Like, does the popcorn need to be perfect? Like, we could do it on the stove and pop it in whatever, fryer or something, or however it's done. Clearly, I don't know. Or we get to throw it in the microwave and maybe it's not super great, but it still gets us 80% of the way there. Similar things can be done here, and it makes you happy. And I also think about this very personally with autonomous driving. My car has this autonomous vehicle mode that I can go into. And I'll tell you, most of the time when I'm on residential roads, I'm not using it. But when I'm on freeways, especially when I'm driving, when I'm in teaching mode and I'm going to the university and it's like a 30-minute or whatever commute on the freeway in one direction, that autonomous driving mode frees my mind. So I can go into AI driving mode, and then I can just my mind can kind of think about what I'm going to teach and other things that I'm working on, and I can kind of drift. I'm still paying attention a little bit, but it just makes the drive less stressful. And it actually makes me more refreshed for teaching. I think a similar thing can happen here, is that if we're using the AIs and they are making it so you're not so mentally exhausted with some of the low-hanging stuff, then you can save that mental energy and that mental problem solving for the harder stuff. I think that's great, right? And so even if it has these downsides of making you slower, again, I think used in the right context, it can be something that we use to help re-energize ourselves, and it can have value. We just need to be smarter and less hypey about where it's useful, and also stop overstating the quality of the stuff that it's producing. Maybe in the future, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, we'll get to the quality where it can deeply reason about semantics and it understands how to produce high quality code in a given context, but it's not there. It's not there today. The other thing I wanted to share, which I briefly touched on in the last episode, is this difference between reasoning about things from a semantic level versus a syntactic level. One of the core differences, I think, is when I was mentioning when you reason about semantics, you have to understand what something really is, like the meaning of it. That's sort of what semantics mean. And that is very hard to do, because it means that you have to have a deep understanding. You don't need that with syntactic analysis. And the reason why you don't is syntactic analysis alone, without semantic reasoning, is just pattern matching. It's just pattern matching. It's just regular expression. That's mostly what many of the AI systems today are doing, is they're doing syntactic analysis. They're doing next token generation. That's why they regenerate all the code. And that's why they struggle with understanding a larger corpora of code data, because it would require a deeper ability to reason about semantics rather than syntax. Is the idea of the syntax is you can just follow a stream of information long enough that you can predict the next token. And that works in cases like I'm trying to complete a function. It doesn't work in the case where I'm trying to construct a new function that's going to do this, and I want it to leverage all the elements of the existing code base that you should know about. This would require the AI to scan the code base, have a deep semantic understanding of how it works, and then assemble that in a meaningful way. That's more than just syntactic analysis. That is semantic analysis. That is intentionality analysis. Okay, I think that's all I've got for this one. Super cool that this is going on. Very interesting take. And I love to see that the world is starting to be a little bit more honest about this. I think that that's my biggest, that's been maybe my biggest issue, because I feel like once we can all get honest about this, we can have real conversations and we can actually start solving things, I think, maybe the right way. We're clearly not there yet, because I'm going to... False. I this is such hyperbole. Show us the study. Okay. All right. So you make this claim. Show us the data. Show us the controlled, randomized study that you did that tracked the development over several months of your entire staff that has led you to these numbers. So we can see that this is true, rather than at some point these numbers are going to exceed 100%, because it's just like it feels like this is just a pissing contest at this point. Is everybody's out there being like, well, Google said they're doing 50. Okay, what can we inflate it to like 53%? And then they're going to do the same thing. And eventually these numbers won't make sense. It'll be like, oh, well, we're using it for 3,072%. How about you? And so they're going to be like, oh, we're using it for 4,000%. That's not even possible. But they're in such a pissing contest mode now, because they're letting the hype control the narrative, that we've already lost all. This is some flat earth nonsense, and we need to come back to reality here. Please, big tech, just stop. We all know that this is not true. You guys know this is not true. Drop a 0, and we might start believing this. All right, come on.